we're talking about how Matt was talking about how much he learned his first day at MPI. It's a crazy amount of notes, and you can only imagine what he learned in the rest of the year. And as he was mentioning too, looking for a program where he could get his hands on the equipment immediately. So we wanted to show you a video of what it's like, at least this year, students on the third day of classes.
My name is Rob Skates. I teach cinematography, and I also am the camera department instructor for our Production 1 class, which we just wrapped up. Well, I think the big hook and sort of the thing that makes Production Lab class so interesting is the hands-on environment.
All right, so now we're checking our levels. Levels should sound good.
Pretty much from the first day, students will have a sense of what it's like to be on set. And if you haven't been on a set before, it can be a little bit overwhelming. What we do is we separate into camera, lighting, script continuity, and sound. And we spend 2 hours getting instruction in those departments and then 2 hours on set. So pretty much after our first day here, I think you can go on a set anywhere, and I'm not saying you can jump in and start doing the work, but I think you can get a pretty good sense of what's happening with the different departments.
Okay, great, thanks. I think we're back on track. The video is shown. Cool. So now what we want to do, our last MPI grad was in the early morning in LA. We're going to jump out of that. We're going to leap forward in time to the other side of the planet, where it is now middle of the afternoon in Nigeria, to talk to Ema Edosio, who is a 2013 MPI graduate, director of a film, Kasala, and a cinematographer on Amaka's Kin, the Women of Nollywood. And would love to hear a lot about what you're doing over there. Welcome to the conversation, Emma.
Hello, guys.
Hi, how you doing today?
Very well, thank you. Hi, Jeremy.
I'm just waving at you. Thanks for joining us. Okay, I'm going to ask the question I think is probably on everybody's mind to start this off. What brought you from Nigeria to Michigan? How did you find MPI? And tell us about that experience, finding us and coming, and why MPI?
It was very funny how I found MPI from Nigeria. I was searching for a film school, and most of the film schools I saw were very expensive, and I couldn't afford it. So I went out with friends, and I was talking about how much I wanted to go to film school. And in the middle of the bar, somebody walked up to me and said, "Hey, I know a film school that you would like." And it was one of the graduates
Really?
of MPI, yes.
Awesome,
and
awesome.
Shola told me about MPI, how amazing it is, how the faculty is amazing, how the school is everything. And I was like, maybe this is just one of those people who just make a lot of mouth because they've been to film school. They're one of the very few in Africa who've been to film school. And I started doing my research, and I found out that it was everything that I was looking for. And then I packed my bag and I came to Michigan.
Wow.
To the cold.
Wow.
Yes.
So tell me more about your interest in being a filmmaker. How is that for a Nigerian woman? You said there's very few people who go to film school. What was that like, and why was it so important for you?
There's hardly any. There's only one film school in Nigeria, and you have to go to film school. So if you want to go to that film school, you go there for 6 years, and I wasn't ready to spend 6 years of my life. And the film school here is not so good. So I got into the industry by watching music videos, and I walked into a music video director's set, and I said, "Hey, I wanted to intern." And they said, "Okay, fine, because you're a woman and because you're very tiny, we'll give you the microphone, and I was to handle playback." So they gave me a small speaker, and I was to handle the playback for the musician. So I would cue the music to say the chorus, and the music director and the whole crew will be in front filming, and I had the loudspeaker, and that was how I got into the film industry. So I was very curious about this world, and I worked for 1.5 years with this music video director. And then there was something came to Nigeria. New York Film Academy came to Nigeria, and they were giving out a 1-month scholarship, and I got accepted. And that was where the whole world of filmmaking opened up to me, and I wanted to tell stories. And that was where I started searching for films. So I got into MPI for a year and came back to Nigeria because there's a huge demand for filmmakers here, for well-produced filmmakers. We don't have a lot of talent here, and that is sort of my story in a short statement, or short.
Sure, that's it. A little in a nutshell, as we would say.
In a nutshell, yes.
Yes, awesome. That's a great journey right there. And now the most recent end of your journey here, or this point in your journey right now, you've got this amazing film that is on Netflix right now. Tell me a little bit about that.
Okay, so I started working in the industry, and I was fortunate enough to work with some of the biggest TV stations in Africa. And I also worked as a video journalist for the BBC here in Nigeria. One of the problems we have here is that, first problem is there's hardly any kind of funding for filmmakers. It's not like, there's no grant, there's nothing. We have enough social problems for the government to start thinking about handing out money to filmmakers to create a film, in quote. So being a filmmaker here is not considered a big deal. But in the course of my career after MPI, I started working with some of the biggest brands making films, but a lot of the stories were not stories that I could connect to, and I wanted to tell stories in my own voice, and especially based on my experience as a video journalist with the BBC. So I went into the slum with a reporter, and I filmed in one of the biggest slums in Lagos, and I was talking to the chief. And he said to me, he pointed at his shack and he said, "This is my mansion. They gave birth to me here and I would die here." And I said, "This is fantastic. This is an amazing story. I should create something about this environment." But I had no money. I had nothing. So I got a writer and we worked on the project for a year. And then I said, okay, fine. How am I going to raise this money? I went to my sister, threatened my sister that I was going to kidnap her son. And she gave me a couple of dollars make the film. I went to friends and family, and they gave me some money. And I'm so happy that I came to MPI because I used the skills that I had learned to create the film. I used the skills that Rob taught me in cinematography class. I was able to work with the gaffer. Even though they were not so experienced, I was able to work with the gaffers and the lighting department with what Jeremy taught me. I was able to produce and micromanage and work with the tiny budget that I have with what Catherine taught me. And I brought in this wealth of knowledge into the project, and that was how I was able to shoot and edit and direct the film. It was one of the hardest things in my career, but I think MPI had prepared me for this journey, and that was how I was able to create this film, Kasala.
That's awesome. So what you did, you took your own, your knowledge, your experience, and you were able to guide the inexperienced into making a final product. That's awesome.
Yes.
I'd like to take a minute, Kevin, if you're still there, to look at the trailer for the film, and then we'll come back and talk to Emma for a little bit.
Now party with a go, no good is God. Girls just a run from you. You understand? Just say you won't carry this motor. See, I bring this motor, no use and flex today, enter that party with style. No, bro, attach your motor be this. Okay.
If I don't get that motor today, your papa, he go die.
Wow, that looks like a lot of fun. One crazy day. How many crazy days did it take to shoot the film? It's all this time.
Whew. It took me a year to prepare, and it took me 13 days to shoot it. Yes.
Okay, so the fantastic. Well, congratulations on that. Tell me a little bit more about, because you talked about how what you learned at the MPI from Jeremy and Catherine helped you. Tell me more about the what MPI gave you to make this possible. Like, what was the most useful skills that you say allowed this to happen?
I think what MPI gave to me was a very strong foundation, a very strong, solid foundation. Before coming to MPI, I'd been exposed into the Nigerian filmmaking world. And I would watch the director place lights in different positions and, come up with fantastic results. But I didn't understand why. And I didn't understand how he could replicate this same beauty with little equipment. So coming to MPI gave me the solid foundation that I needed to understand the basics of filmmaking, and not just the basic. Gave me my first experience in working in a professional environment. It gave me the knowledge that I needed to go back to Nigeria, to go back to Africa. It gave me the skills, the professionalism that I needed to come back here to work. Like I said, there's a huge demand for skills here in Africa, and MPI prepared me for this journey that I'm currently on right now.
Fantastic. I heard that you recently gave a class for filmmakers this week. I was at Monday for like a couple of hundred people.
200 people.
How did that go? What were you teaching them? You've come a long way from student to teacher.
I've become a sort of legend here in Nigeria, where I bypassed the very strong cinema houses, and I got my film on Netflix Africa. So I've become like a sort of legend to independent filmmakers, where everybody wants to hear from me how I did it, my journey and all of that. So
fantastic.
It was
Wow.
a class. It was a class on how to find funding for your film, and I was very particular about my words to them, that your skill is your currency. It's you might not be able to attract the funding you need. You might not be able to attract the millions of dollars, but if you start small and you start with what you have, then you can start attracting investors. Then you can start attracting people that will be interested in your work. And that was the core message that I was teaching to people. Yeah.
That is awesome and important advice. Yeah, I love that. Your talent is your currency, and you need to trade that in for money and for skills. That's fantastic. Do you have any other advice for up-and-coming want-to-be filmmakers?
One thing that I would say to up-and-coming filmmakers, we live in the present generation. Everybody expects things to happen very fast. We call it sharp in Nigeria, sharp. But I want everybody to know that it's a journey. When I first started, my work looked like, crap. It was horrible. And then I got into MPI and I got the knowledge that I needed. But I took that knowledge. It's one thing to just get that knowledge and sit with it. But I took that knowledge and I kept working till I developed myself to where I am right now. I'm not even satisfied, but it's still a journey. So one thing that I would advise young filmmakers and people who are interested in film school is, consider this as a journey. Another thing that I would, forget the noise, forget social media, forget all of that, and focus on building your skills, focus on honing your craft and being consistent in your work. And then so many things will happen. I would say that I'm an example where a film that is less than $10,000 got on Netflix Africa, one of the biggest platforms in the world. I have that as my CV, and then that's just the beginning of my journey. And it wasn't because I had the huge budget, I had things exploding. It was the skills that I had gathered over the years. And if I think MPI is an amazing start. And I'm not saying this to pander to to the faculty and to the staff there. It's an amazing opportunity to get to get the skills you need to start growing it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I would love to talk to you a whole lot more. You sound like an amazing person to know and to work with. Maybe if I could get to Nigeria, I can audition for you.
Oh yeah, Nigeria. Like you saw the trailer. Nigeria is like one of the craziest cities in the world, but it's so exciting. Has a lot of energy, and I'll be happy to have you here whenever. Yes, I'll be very happy.
I've heard so much. I have a few friends from Lagos, and I would love to see that city up close and personal. Thank you so much for giving us your time, lending us your talent and your energy and your wisdom. We really appreciate you being here
Thank
today.
you so much. Thank you so much, and to everybody for having me.
We're going to visit one of our current students on the set of her first film. Let's take that away, Kevin.
My first film was called A Girl Walks Into a Bar. And it was basically based on some things that I experienced when I worked at a restaurant and bar this summer. I think it went really well. I'm a nervous person, so the whole time I was convinced that something was going to go really wrong. My crew was really great, and my cast, I had one guy that I went to college with. He drove about 5 hours the night before to come and not star, but be one of the main characters, so it went really well. I'm 23, so when I graduated from college, I was a history major, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew I didn't want to teach. January or February of 2019 that I finally decided that I wanted to do something on the film track, and I applied and I got in, and it was one of the best things I've ever done.